What an incredible game we just witnessed. The Celtics defeat the Bucks 108-95 to force a Game 7. There will be a Game 7. Crazy stuff. But also, earlier today, Djokovic defeats Felix Auger-Aliassime in straight sets, 7-5, 7-6. He will be the number 1 ranked player going into Roland Garros. Good-ass match. We'll talk about that too. My boy Nadal got hurt, losing to Shapovalov. Just sad. His foot keeps being a problem. He started off hot, beating Shapovalov 6-1 in the first set. And then his foot started giving him problems, 7-5, 6-2. He loses the last 2 sets. And we'll see how he does in Roland Garros, if he's even going to participate. We'll see if his foot gets better in a week's time. But it's looking rough for Rafa Nadal. Alcaraz wins Madrid Open. 19 years old. He's won 2 Masters 1000. You can't say enough good things about Alcaraz. He is the future, the present of tennis, and he's just incredible. The NFL schedule has been released. There's a lot of teams that have 5 primetime games. A lot of good games to look forward to. The Chargers also had like a funny-ass schedule release video that we'll talk about real quick. And Brady signs a 10-year, $375 million contract with Fox to be their commentator analyst once he hangs it up. Ridiculous numbers. Brady always, being a savvy businessman. He has his next venture already set. Jokic wins MVP. I thought it should have been Giannis, but it is what it is. Jokic wins his second MVP. He now has more MVPs than Kobe. He has more MVPs than Shaq. But it is what it is. Shout out to Jokic. He did have a great season. By no means is he not deserving of being an MVP, but it's just a little off to me. But all of that on this episode of the Hard to Handle Sports Podcast. Let's get started. The Celtics force a Game 7, 108-95. They go into Milwaukee. They go into the champions' home court and force a Game 7. Shout out to Boston. But shout out to Jason Tatum. 46 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists in an elimination game. That's some crazy stuff. That's some Klay Thompson Game 6 type of numbers. The rest of the team, Jaylen Brown put up 22. Marcus Smart had 21. He had a crazy first quarter that really propelled them, really set the tone for the rest of the game. He had a nice step back dagger 2. It looked like a 3, but it was a 2 in the fourth quarter too. He had a good game. Al Horford, his numbers don't look that ridiculous. 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 points. But if you watch the game, he had 2 crucial blocks in the fourth quarter when the Bucks were making a run, trying to get back into the game. So he had a good game. Grant Williams, decent game. Derek White, 9 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. But I think 7 of his points came as the half was ending in the second half. He had a lot of good plays too. He had some timely rebounds, and those 9 points were big 9 points. So overall, good performance by the Celtics to force a Game 7. Like I said, Jason Tatum put that team on his back. He is that guy. He's the superstar. He has arrived. Shout out to Jason Tatum. Honestly, I didn't think I thought that Giannis and the Bucks were going to show their championship pedigree. They're going to show why they're the champions. They're going to close it out at 6 at home and, just be done with the Celtics. But Celtics have heart, and Jason Tatum is that guy because Giannis did his thing too. 44 points, 20 rebounds, 6 assists, a 40-20 game and a closeout game. And it wasn't enough because the rest of his team was just cheeks. Drew Holiday, 17, Pat Connaughton, 14. And then the next has 6, Brook Lopez. And Wesley Matthews, terrible game, 4 points. Giannis just needed a little bit of help, and he didn't get it from his team. These are the type of games that you really miss Middleton. Every time Giannis went to the bench for a little bit of rest, it looked like the Bucks had no idea what they were running. They had no idea what their offense was. I wanted to see Drew Holiday be a little more aggressive, but he wasn't. And, we can't really expect too much from Drew Holiday. Like, he gets his points, he gets his timely buckets, but to run a whole offense through him is not his game. And, Coach Bud is going to have to figure out something for Game 7 because it can't just be Giannis. Giannis has dropped 40. I think he's dropped 3 40-point games this series, and it hasn't been enough. So they got to find something else. They got to, try to get Wesley Matthews going. Grayson Allen's just having a terrible series. His shooting has been terrible. And every time his plus and minus, if you look at his plus and minus, it's like they're like plus 10 when he sits, and they were like minus like 18 when he was playing. Some crazy like fluctuation. But this takes nothing away from the Celtics. Jason Tatum, I think the takeaway from this game is that Jason Tatum is that dude. He's a superstar. He's ascending. His arrow's pointing all the way up. And now a game 7 in Boston is going to be electric. Honestly, I'm not too hot. I do want the Bucks to win this series, and they are my pick to go all the way and repeat. But I'm not mad about a game 7. This series has been probably the best series of the playoffs so far. So it's fitting that it's going to 7 games. I honestly, it's gonna be crazy game 7. I'm just thinking about it. Like, do the Bucks have enough to go into the Boston and win a game 7 without Middleton? I don't know. Especially if Jason Tatum plays like he did today, and they have overall the Celtics do have the better team. They have way more pieces. Smart, Jaylen Brown, Tatum, Derek White can give you some production. Al Horford's a beast. He seems to have found like the fountain of youth. He's like a great defender now. All of a sudden, he can move his feet again. It's crazy what going back to the Celtics has done for Al Horford. But the Bucks do have the best player, and it's Giannis. So is he going to be able to just muscle and carry the team into the next round, into the Eastern Conference Finals where the Heat are waiting for them? I don't know, because like the gap between Tatum and Antetokounmpo, it's big. He's like a 2-time MVP, and Tatum, his arrow's pointing up, but it's big. But I feel like Tatum is closing that gap. So if Tatum is closing that gap, and the Celtics have the better roster, the better team, especially now that Middleton's out, it's kind of hard to put some money on the Bucks or stick with my pick, especially with the Celtics playing at home. But I think I still got to go with the Bucks. I think the Bucks find a way in Game 7 to win it. Giannis is going to have another great game. He's going to be great from the foul line again, like he was today, like 12 for 13 and some crazy stuff, some crazy like numbers. I don't know. I just think Giannis is going to find a way to win Game 7 in Boston. But man, Game 6 was electric. The Celtics must have had those thoughts creeping into their head, like, damn, are we going to blow another 13-point lead like we did in Game 5? And to their credit, they fought back. The Bucks made it a 4-point game, and the Celtics responded, and they were able to close out the game. So Game 7 is gonna be electric. It's gonna be fun. I'm hella looking forward to it. Don't bother me on Saturday or Sunday, whenever the game is at. I think it's Sunday. Yeah, don't bother me on Sunday. I'm gonna be watching that game. Djokovic defeats Felix Auger-Aliassime 7-5, 7-6 to punch his ticket into the semifinals of the Masters in Rome. Shout out to Djokovic. With this, he guarantees that he's going to be the number 1 seed at Roland Garros, which is big because, everyone always wants to be the number 1 seed. He's going to stay as the number 1 player. If he would have lost, Medvedev would have moved into that number 1 ranking in the ATP Tour, but Djokovic takes care of business, defeating FAA in straight sets. Shout out to Djokovic. It looks like he's damn near at the top of his game again, and it was expected for him to take, a little bit to get back into rhythm, get back into shape, get back into, the level that we've seen him end last year with, him not being able to play the Australian Open, not being able to get into the U.S. for the U.S. swing with the Miami Open and Indian Wells. And we've seen Djokovic, lose to some players that he normally wouldn't lose to. We saw him lose the final of the Serbian Open to Rublev. And every time you see him play, you were like, okay, this is not the Djokovic that we're accustomed to. He's obviously still getting back into form. He's obviously still trying to find his rhythm. Like, this ain't it. Like, eventually it'll come. Right now in Rome, in the Italian Open, he looks like, he's finding his level. Like, Felix should have his head held high because he definitely played a good game. There wasn't too many mistakes that he had. He had an all-around solid game, and Djokovic was there for the occasion. Even when he was up 5-2 and he allowed FAA to come back and make it a 5-5 set in the second set, it looked like he focused again, made it 6-5, 6-6, and then in the tiebreak he just showed his experience, he showed his class, and beat Felix pretty convincingly in the tiebreak 7-1. But it was just a great match of tennis. Like I said, FAA, he had a great start to the 2022 season, and then he had a considerable dip where I was like, oh man, I just said you're gonna do great things in 2022, and now it looks like you're regressing, and it looks like your season's going, is going to shit, kind of. But it looks like FAA has found his level again, and he really showed it today. Like he was serving really, really good. His forehand looked nice. His backhand looked solid. Djokovic kept pressuring him with his forehand, and for the most part, it responded. But Djokovic, like I said, he's playing at a high level. It looks like he's back to that number one, and I do have him winning Rome. It looks like he should. He does play Ruud next, and Ruud is a clay specialist, and he's had a very solid season so far too. So it's going to be a very entertaining semifinals. And on the other side is Sasha Zverev versus Tsitsipas, and they've played numerous times. Sasha Zverev just beat him in the semifinals of Madrid, so we'll see how that goes. But I think Djokovic should be the overwhelming favorite to beat Ruud and then beat either Sasha or Tsitsipas. And it's just good to see Djokovic getting to those levels. He lost to some players that you normally wouldn't see him lose to. And even the loss to Rublev. Like, Rublev is a great player, but I don't think, especially in his home country of Serbia, I don't think a lot of people had Rublev beating Djokovic. But Djokovic was barely warming up, was barely getting back into rhythm. So it's understandable why he lost to Rublev. But I think now he's really getting back into form, and we're seeing the best Djokovic. And it's good for him because Roland Garros is a week away, and he's the defending champion, and Alcaraz is going to be there. We'll see what version of Nadal is going to be there. But definitely, it looks like Djokovic is getting back into that number one ranking form that we've been accustomed to. So shout out Djokovic. Shout out Felix too. I think he had a great great tournament at the Italian Open, and he should have his head held high. Losing to Djokovic is not a bad thing at all. It's Djokovic. It is what it is. You played a great match. You showed your heart. I was hoping for a third set, but it is what it is. But while Djokovic seems to have found his form, he seems to be hitting his stride at the perfect time ahead of Roland Garros, the same can't be said for Nadal. Nadal, who's coming back from that rib injury he had at Indian Wells. Now it seems like his foot is bothering him again. He got to the round of 16 in the Italian Open in Rome, and he looked good. He was playing against Shapovalov. He was up 6-1 in the first set. It looked like vintage Nadal and clay. It looked like he was going to coast to a victory. We're going to see him go into the round of 8. And then it seemed like his foot just started bothering him. He couldn't move. There was clearly a limp on him. And after that, Shapovalov, obviously a quality tennis player, blood in the water, took advantage of Nadal's injury. And don't want to take anything away from Shapovalov. He had a great tournament too. Beat Nadal 7-5, 6-2 in the last 2 sets, and eliminated Nadal from Rome. And now, as a Nadal fan, as just a fan of tennis, it's just like, damn, that foot is really like chronic. It's a chronic pain. It's a chronic injury, and it seems like it's never gonna go away. Nadal even hinted at retirement after more problems with his foot. He said it's not an injury; it's like some chronic thing that he has to deal with for his life. And that sucks, man. It sucks because Nadal, he fights through injuries like nobody else, and he's such a great player. And you want to see him compete at Roland Garros, where he's won numerous. I think he's won 14 French Opens. Is just ridiculous. Like, the amount of success he's had at Roland Garros. It's really been his masters. His major. He reigned supreme over everybody in that tournament. And I was looking forward to him going into Roland Garros with the good form, especially once he hurt his ribs. It was like, damn, hopefully he's able to come back and be in good shape for Roland Garros. And now his foot is flaring up, and it just doesn't seem like, even if he does play, which I think he will play, it doesn't seem like he's going to have the best of tournament just because that foot is really bothering him. And if he doesn't have the best of tournament, how much time is he going to take off? Is it going to be like last year where the French Open was pretty much his last tournament? I think he played Washington, and then that was it. He called it for the year, and then we saw him, go on that run to start this year. What does the future hold for Nadal? And it's sad. It's as a tennis fan, it's was the 22-0 start that we saw him start the season with, was that the last great thing that we're going to remember from Nadal, because it just seems like these injuries are starting to pile up more consistently. Like, he's always going to have that foot injury, and we just hope that, that foot doesn't bother him consistently, or like there's enough gaps where we're able to enjoy his tennis. And then if there's other injuries between those foot injuries, like the ribs, it just seems like it's too much start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. And at some point, like, is that just going to get the best in Nadal? Like, is it even worth it at some point? Like, if you only have like 6 months to play before your foot starts bothering you, and then between those 6 months, there's another rib injury, there's something else that keeps you from just enjoying the time that your foot gives you. I don't know. It's sad to think about it, but, it's something that becomes more real and more real the more that foot keeps bothering him. And then I also think about changing sports. I think about Dirk Nowitzki, and he's come out and said after retirement that he wishes, he kind of thinks if the last 2 years that he played basketball were worth it, because his knees and his legs are just bothering him so much post retirement. Like, he wonders, like, is it worth it? Was it worth it? Should I have called it maybe 2 years earlier? Because now I want to play with my kids, and my legs are just not holding up. They're not allowing me to do the things that I want to do post retirement. And it's kind of sad to think about Nowitzki talk about that after his NBA career, and just debate if the last 2 years of his career were worth it, if he should have maybe called it a little bit earlier so he was able to really enjoy the rest of his life. Because sometimes we forget, like, for us, it seems like their career is their whole life, but it's really a very small part of their career. Like, yeah, sometimes these players play for a long, long time, and we're able to enjoy them for 16, 20 years, 22 years. But, if God permits them, obviously they want to live until they're old, 60, 70, 80. They want to live a long, healthy life. So if they, risk the rest of their lives for those 15 years that they play, whatever sport they play, these guys are retiring 35 to 40 years old. Like, that's still very, very young. That's still, like, you still got your whole second half of your life remaining that you got to think about. So that's what I think about with Nadal. Every time his foot becomes a problem, is like, should he keep risking it? Should he keep playing? Like, obviously, as a tennis fan, I love Nadal. I would enjoy. I wish he would keep playing, because I want to see him at a major. I want to go to the U.S. Open and see him. I want to go to the French Open and see him. I want to travel the world and see Nadal play. But is it worth it? Like, is it worth risking the second half of his career, of his life, for the foot? Like, does he not want to? I know he's a soccer fan. Does he not want to kick the ball around with his kids? I know he has a tennis academy in Spain, I think in Mallorca. Does he not want to be able to move when he gets older, and be able to play and teach the kids, and maybe even be a coach like his uncle? There's a lot of things he has to consider, and hopefully for him everything goes good and he's able to play and his foot doesn't nag him post retirement. But it's something to consider, especially when you have, like, I know it's not the same sport, but Dirk Nowitzki talking about his knees not letting him do the things that he wants to do post retirement. It's just something to think about. But hopefully Nadal is able to use this week to recover. Hopefully he's able to do something to his foot, and we're able to see somewhat the best version of Nadal at Roland Garros. Because Djokovic is going to be there, Alcaraz is going to be there, the present and the future are going to be there basically, and the past, which has been all of Nadal's career basically at Roland Garros. He owns Roland Garros. I just hope that he's able to be there to put on a great performance, put on a show for those fans in Paris and around the world. But hopefully Nadal's there, and hopefully he's able to give us a good performance. And if his foot is really that bad, hopefully he has the courage to just call it. Just enjoy the second half of your life, man, if it's that bad. But hopefully, as a Nadal fan, everything's good. He'll just massage it, maybe put a little needle somewhere, and he'll be able to play at Roland Garros. But with Nadal looking like he's, at the last stage of his career, the sun is setting on his career. Spain has a new champion to look forward to for the next 15, 20 years, and his name is Alcaraz. What a monster. He's not just the future, he's the present too. He's having a great 2022 year, and he just added to it, winning the Madrid Open, winning it in Spain, and the run that he had, defeating Nadal in clay in Madrid, incredible. Like, he talked about it. Alcaraz said, like, this is a dream come true. This is crazy. Like, I think on the camera he wrote, like, ¿Qué pasó?, or something like that. Like, what happened? Like, I can't even believe this just happened. He follows that up beating the number one player in the world, Djokovic. And then he follows that up just embarrassing Zverev, the defending champion of Madrid, in straight sets, just bullying him in the finals. Just completely, like, it looked like they didn't even belong in the same court. Like, if you play pickup, it looked like he was like a 6.0 player and Zverev was barely learning how to hold the racket. Like, it was night and day. It looked like Zverev deserved to be on the same court as Alcaraz. And if you guys have forgotten, Alcaraz has just turned 19 years old, which is insane for him to be doing this at 19 years old. He's the second youngest to win 2 Masters 1000 at the age of 19. The sky's the limit for this kid, and he's basically the favorite for Roland Garros. The books were making him the favorite. I think it should change after Djokovic, after the level that Djokovic showed today against Felix. But nevertheless, Alcaraz is a monster. He's not just the future, he's the present. And I'm so pumped to see him like go into a major as one of the favorites. This is the first time he's going to go into a major as one of the favorites. And I think he's ready for it. He seems like he has his head on strong. Like, he has a great support team. He's humble. He's talking about how he wants to buy a car, and his mom and his parents were basically telling him to like chill out and like wait a little bit. And little stuff like that just goes to show that it lets me know that he has a good support system, that, you know, he has people that really look out for him, really care for him, being there and like guiding him. And sometimes that's all you need. Like, sometimes there's a lot of people that have had talent. There's a lot of people that have had early success, not just in tennis, but in other sports. And they don't have the support system. They have a bunch of yes men around them. They don't have family there to look out for them. And then you just see as fast as they came up, they go right back down. But it looks like Alcaraz has a great team around him. It looks like his family's looking out for him. And not just that, it also looks like, you know, the greats are shining down, looking down on him, and they're rooting for him. Like, Nadal has openly spoken about how he's super proud of Alcaraz and how he's going to lead this next generation of Spain players into the future. And Djokovic has said great stuff about him. It looks like everyone on tour pretty much likes him. Zverev, after the match, I think he said he reminded him of a younger him. But dude, Alcaraz is night and day better than Zverev. He completely schooled Zverev. Zverev, who's honestly, he had a rough start to the season too, but he got to the final Madrid. He's now in the semifinals of Rome, so he's not having that bad of a season. He's definitely turning it around right now. And for Alcaraz to just completely like wipe the floor with Zverev, that's incredible. After beating Nadal and Djokovic, I was afraid there might be a letdown. Like that's just 2 back-to-back like highs. Like, the adrenaline, the serotonin this guy must have felt after doing that is like ridiculously high. And for him to not have a letdown playing Zverev like a regular, like just good player, shows like that composure that Alcaraz already has at 19 years old. So it's crazy. Like I said, he's not just the future of tennis, he's the present, and he's gonna go into Roland Garros as clearly one of the favorites, along with Djokovic, maybe like Ruud, a clay specialist, and hopefully Nadal if he's able to recover from his foot. But like I said, like every time I do one of these about Alcaraz, it just seems like I'm just complimenting the kid, and like there's nothing but good stuff to be said about him. But he's really like just class. He's class for a 19-year-old. He's class for like a 25-year-old in their prime, and he just seems to have like a great character. So I'm rooting for Alcaraz, man. I'm an Alcaraz fan for sure, and I would not be surprised if he win Roland Garros. The NFL released its schedule yesterday on Thursday, May 12th, and 13 teams have the maximum of 5 primetime games. Those teams are the Bills, the Bengals, the Broncos, the Buccaneers, the Chargers, the Chiefs, the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Packers, the Patriots, the Steelers, the Rams, and the 49ers. So clearly these are the teams that the NFL has picked to be their marquee teams, the teams that deserve the highest billing, the teams that are going to drive the ratings. And for the most part, I agree with all 13 teams. The Bills, we know what the Bills have done the last few seasons. It's basically this next few seasons for the Bills are going to be Super Bowl or bust. Bengals just made the Super Bowl. Broncos, they just got Russell Wilson. We'll see what happens with Jerry Jeudy. He just got arrested. We'll see what happens with that. But the Broncos, I think the NFL is banking on the Broncos to be good this year with Russell Wilson. The Buccaneers, Brady's team, easy explanation. The Chargers, they had some great primetime matches this last year against the Chiefs, against the Raiders. So it makes sense. They have Justin Herbert, probably the best young quarterback in the league. Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes. The Cowboys are America's team. The Eagles, they just traded for A.J. Brown. They have a fun team. They made the playoffs last year. They have that NFC East favoritism that seems to get a lot of NFC East teams a lot of primetime games. So that one kind of makes sense. The Packers with Aaron Rodgers, 13-3 back-to-back seasons, and I think 13-4 last year. So makes sense. Patriots, Steelers, those two are a little iffy. We'll get back to those. The Rams, defending champions, makes sense. The 49ers, we'll see what they do with Trey Lance or Jimmy Garoppolo. They have, if they stay healthy with Kyle Shanahan, they should be a marquee team again. So that makes sense. They've had a good couple last years, or they have a good history the last 5 years of being a marquee team. So I could see that one too. The Steelers and the Rams, those not the Patriots and the Steelers. Those are the ones where it's like, okay, the Steelers, Mitch Trubisky looks like he's going to be the starting quarterback going into the season. Like, do we really need to put Mitch Trubisky 5 times in primetime slots? Like, or they just drafted their rookie quarterback? Like, do we really need to see like that team 5 times on primetime? Could they have gone to a more deserving team? Maybe, but it is the Steelers. It's a historic team. They've never had a losing season with Mike Tomlin, so I could kind of see why. The Patriots too, they had a bounce back year last year. It looks like Bill Belichick has this guy with Mac Jones. He hit the gritty at the Pro Bowl. He looks like he has a little bit of personality. The Patriots have they're the most recent dynasty. They're a marquee team just by the name. So I guess that makes sense. But yeah, the Steelers and the Patriots, I can see both of these teams kind of like having the Patriots and the Steelers. I could see these teams having, one of those games, one of those primetime games where it's like, okay, like, why is this a primetime game? Or if it's later in the season, like, okay, like, let's flex these teams out and put a real marquee matchup into these time slots if it's like Sunday Night Football. But Patriots and Steelers, hopefully they prove me wrong, and hopefully they show why they got 5 primetime slots. But for the most part, I think the NFL got it right. All the other teams are marquee teams. They either have an elite quarterback, or they've been really successful in the last few years, or they just have a very large fan base, or they play in the NFC East like the Cowboys and the Eagles, and they get that NFC East favoritism. But what do you guys think about the NFL schedule release? Obviously, it's like a holiday. It's like the last step before the season starts. The draft is over. Free agency is pretty much over. A lot of the off-season hype is over. The contracts have been signed. There's been trades. There's been players re-signed. There's been a lot of speculation of other trades going on. The schedule release kind of marks one of the last hurdles that we have to hit before the season starts. So it was fun. It was fun seeing the release. It was fun seeing all these primetime games. I am a Chargers season ticket holder, so it was nice seeing them having all these primetime games, having all these marquee matchups. If you guys need a ticket for the Chargers, let me know. They are for sale. And but yeah, let me know what you guys think. Also, the Chargers did have a very funny video with their schedule release. They just made an anime video, and they poked fun at Urban Meyer. They did a nice edit with the Raiders, looking like Buccaneers, looking like Raiders out at sea. They took a shot at Antonio Brown. It was just a fun video. There was other teams that had very fun videos too, but the Chargers definitely took the cake on that one. If you guys hadn't seen it, I'll put the link somewhere in the description. But bro, what are you guys looking forward to? I know everyone looks forward to the schedule release, not just because you get to see what games, what team you're going to play and what weeks, and you look at your bye week and all that stuff, but people travel. People like going to these games. I know I'm going to definitely catch a game or two this season, and I'm a season ticket holder for the Chargers, but I don't know if those are the only games I'm gonna go to. I don't really have that connection to the Chargers anymore. I kind of just bought them on a whim. I live in San Francisco now, so I'm kind of trying to check out Levi's Stadium too. We'll see. The 49ers do have 5 primetime games, so I might have to catch one of those. But yeah, it's just fun that the schedule is out. I know a lot of people. I know a lot of Raider fans. I know a lot of them are planning their trips around Vegas to see the Raiders. They have some good matchups too over there in Las Vegas. So it's just a fun time. The schedule release is always a fun time. I know I have a friend in New York that likes to travel and go to games too. I know she's definitely planning some trips around the schedule release. So it's a jolly good time. I think this latter part of the off season is like the funnest time because it's the draft and everyone feels like a winner after the draft. Even if you had a shitty draft, you convince yourself, you're like, nah, we got to jam, we got to steal. Like this draft was cool, and then the schedule comes out and you're like, okay, like boom, let's plan this trip, let's go to these games, or like let's have a little barbecue for the Sunday night football game. This one's gonna be dope. It's just a good time. I'm glad the schedule's out. Gonna plan some trips around it. Let me know what you guys think about the schedule. Who deserved more primetime games? Who deserved less primetime games? The Lions were the only team that did not have at least one primetime game. They're the only team with 0. And it makes sense, man. It's the Lions. The Lions are going to lion. And hopefully for their sake, they have a good season. And maybe next year they'll get at least one. Tom Brady has secured another bag. 10 years, $375 million to be the commentator analyst for Fox once he hangs it up. Are we surprised? This man, Tom Brady, just is a winner at life. He's a winner at the NFL level. He's a winner with like the wife he has. He's a winner with all his business ventures, TV12, his documentary, Man in the Arena was a hit. And now he secures the biggest bag ever for a commentator / analyst. 10 years, $375 million. This man Brady he's winning at life. Like there's nothing else you could say. Brady knows how to do life. Like he has the playbook on life, and he's getting $37.5 million per year. Aikman and Romo are getting 36 per year combined, and they're 2 of the highest paid guys in the business, if not the 2 highest paid. So it just goes to show what Fox thinks about Brady, what they think he could bring to the table, and I think he's gonna be great on TV. I think his personality has really shined once he left the Patriots. Like he already had like a little bit of personality when he was with the Patriots. Once he left them, he just has completely shined, and like his social media game's on point. His interviews has been great. It looks like he let his hair loose once he left the Patriots. He went from being robotic to actually being Tom Brady. And I think his insight's going to be great. He's obviously one of the smartest, one of the most cerebral quarterbacks of all time. And I think quarterbacks have had a great time transitioning into the media. I'm looking at Manning, who's been amazing. Both of the Manning brothers, Eli and Peyton, have been great. I think they're doing great stuff with ESPN, and the Manning cast has been amazing. Drew Brees, I think this was his first season with NBC on Sunday Night Football. He's been great. Kurt Warner has been great for NFL Network. Even Mark Sanchez as a commentator has been amazing as a guest on morning shows. He has a lot of great insight. I see him going on The Herd, and he's been like great on TV. So quarterbacks have a good history of just shining post their NFL career, and I think Fox knows that. And Brady, in of itself, he's a machine. He's gonna drive views. He's gonna drive like clicks. He's an enigma, and for Fox to secure him is just shout out to Fox for being ahead of the game. Like they're losing Aikman, I think, to Amazon or one of these guys. And to have Brady locked up, I think that's important. And I think kind of like how we're seeing wide receiver contracts just blow up, I think Brady signing this 10-year, $375 million contract with Fox, I think this bubble or this job market might just explode too. Like who's next to retire? Like Matt Ryan, he I don't know how good his personality is, or I think maybe even Phillip Rivers or somebody like that should be looking like, damn, should I stop coaching these high school kids and go into the TV game? Like, obviously Brady is like the GOAT, so that's why he's driving these numbers. But there's money to be had by other networks, and Amazon's getting in the game. Apple might be getting into the game. Like, there's going to be a lot of money to be thrown at these, big marquee players retiring and going into TVs. But shout out to Brady, man. He's winning at life. He has the playbook on life, man. He's killing it. Like every venture that he has, he's pretty much killing it. So I've kind of learned to stop hating on Brady and just appreciate the man for what the greatness that he eludes and it's just spewing out of him. So shout out to Brady. Once again, man, you're killing it at life, and shout out to you. 10 years, 375 million. That's insane. Shout out to Tom Brady. And to wrap it up, Jokic wins his back-to-back MVP. He's a 2-time MVP winner. He had gaudy numbers one more time. He had 27.1 points, 13.8 rebounds, 7.9 assists. So by no means is he not deserving of this award. All the advanced metrics show that he's had one of the best, if not one, the most statistically best seasons of all time. But those same stats also say that he's one of the best defenders in the league. And it doesn't take too much Jokic tape to see that he's not one of the best defenders in the NBA. Especially if you see him in the playoffs and how teams attack the Nuggets. It's like, okay, these numbers could tell the story. They could help us gauge who's good in the NBA and who's not. But you can't just look at the numbers and assume who's good, who's not, who's having a historical season. Because if you did, like I said, Jokic, he is one of the best players in the NBA. And he might end up being one of the best players ever, like top 20. But he's like the numbers are saying that he had like the best season ever. And he's a top 5 defender in the league. And that's just not true. And then you see his team getting bounced in the first round, like on back-to-back years, or second round and first round this year. Second round last year, first round this year, something like that. And you're just like, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. And then you see that the Nuggets were the 6th seed. And it leaves another sour taste in your mouth. And then you see Giannis just racking up 40-point games in the playoffs, playing without his co-star Middleton. That game just ended and they're gonna go 7 against the Celtics in round 2. But it just doesn't feel fair that like Jokic and now Giannis have the same amount of MVPs, and we clearly could see that Giannis is better, and he had an amazing season himself. And his team is going deeper into the playoffs, and they had a higher seed. And I don't know. It just feels a little off knowing that Nikola Jokic has 2 MVPs, and Shaq only had 1, and Kobe only had 1. And it's like, that's just crazy. That's just crazy, in my opinion. I don't know if I'm the only one that feels this way, but I'm pretty sure I'm not, because I've been on NBA Twitter, and it seems like there's a lot of people that think this way too. And for my money, I think I had Antetokounmpo number 1, I had Embiid number 2, and I had Jokic number 3. And if I'm being honest, there was like a gap. Like there were some games where Giannis just completely showed out against like the best teams in the NBA, against the Nets, against the Philly Sixers. There's some other good games he had against some West teams where you're just like, okay, that was a dominant performance. That should definitely like increase his MVP like consideration. And obviously Jokic had some good games too, and Murray wasn't available the whole season, so Jokic did do a lot of the heavy lifting. And like I said, the advanced numbers are saying that Jokic should have clearly been the MVP, but like I said, he was the 6th seed. So it leaves a sour taste in my mouth. And then you see what the other guys are doing in the playoffs, and it's just like, come on. But like I said, Nikola Jokic played a Warriors team that was clearly a way better team, and he still put up numbers, and he didn't get swept when it looked like he was gonna get swept. So you got to give him a little bit of credit, but I don't know, it just leaves a sour taste in my mouth that Nikola Jokic now has 2 MVPs, and Shaq and Kobe had 2 combined. And like, I think Nikola Jokic is gonna have a great career. He's still young. I think he's like 27 years old. He has a lot of thread left in those tires. He's gonna continue to build his resume. But when it's all said and done, like I don't think he's gonna pass Shaq or Kobe all time. But now he has these 2 MVPs. So there's gonna be an argument to be had when his career's over that he was better than these guys. And as a number 1 option, I don't think he will be. And I think Giannis should have had 3 by now. And this looks like it's the Giannis era. And now with Jokic winning 2 MVPs, there's going to be people that have an argument that's like, oh, this is the Jokic era, especially if, some superstar signs with the Nuggets for some odd reason and they make a you know, if they make a run next year to the playoffs or in the next couple of years and he ends up with a ring, 2 MVPs in a ring, like, is this the best player of this generation? And I don't think he's gonna, you know, get to that level, or he doesn't deserve to be in that consideration. Kind of like, he is a top 5 player in the NBA, but back-to-back MVPs seems like a lot. But like I said, those numbers are amazing. 27 points, 13 rebounds, damn near 14, 8 assists, gaudy numbers by all means. And he's, I don't know, I'm torn apart that I think even Embiid deserved it over him with all the drama that was going on with Simmons. Traded a bunch of the pieces to get Embiid, to get Harden. Harden was clearly not Harden. We've seen how Harden flamed out in the playoffs. And Embiid carried that team to the playoffs, played with a broken face, messed up hand, fucked up hand. And I don't know. This MVP left a very sour taste in my mouth. Like, it just felt like it should have been Giannis. And if not Giannis, it should have been Embiid. And if not Embiid, then there's something wrong with the award, because it should have been one of those two. But like I said, the advanced metrics clearly said Jokic was the best player this year. And I think the voters, you know, kind of ran away with those numbers because it wasn't really that close, if I recall correctly. From the final numbers, let me look them up real quick. Yeah, so the final point tally was 875 points for Jokic, 705 for Embiid, and 595 for Giannis. They were the only 3 players that received first place votes. And out of those first place votes, Jokic ran away with it with 65 first place votes. And to Embiid, only 26. So, you know, the voters spoke up for Shirley. They picked Jokic. He was clearly the winner. So, you know, shout out to Jokic. Like I said, those numbers that he put up were impressive. Not just the advanced numbers, but like 27, 13.8, 7.9, 58 from the field. That's impressive. No one can deny that. But Embiid, you know, he led the league in points, which is impressive. As a center, he's the first center to do that since Shaq. And all the drama that was going along with the Sixers, we've kind of noticed that Doc Rivers is not like the best coach. He's been riding off that Celtics championship for the last 10 years. And despite all of that, despite a lot of moving parts around him, Embiid showed out. Giannis Antetokounmpo, 29.9, 11.6 rebounds, 5.8 assists, 1.8 blocks, 55 from the field, and just showed out in the biggest games on marquee TNT and ESPN games with, you know, the whole NBA community watching. I don't know. It is what it is. Congratulations to Jokic, winning back-to-back MVPs, winning 2 MVPs, and we'll see what happens to this award. I know there's a lot of people that are saying it's losing credibility, but it is what it is. That should do it for this episode of the Hard to Handle Sports Podcast. Thank you so much if you listen to the end. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and peace.